I want to welcome you to Deep Truth Media. This is Karis Alexander. As you can see, the format that I'm using is a little bit different. Apparently, the format that I used to use is not being uploaded or accessible through YouTube, so I have to use a different format, which is fine. But what I want to do in this video is just highlight some of the key components that were quite visual for me at the closing ceremonies. I didn't actually watch the closing ceremonies, but what I picked up from the images that I saw, I could very well piece together a lot of the information that I'm going to share with you. And I want to give you a perspective of some of the key highlights from the Olympics, tying in to some of the events around or surrounding the Olympic events. Now, as you know, probably know, there was a lot of media attention around false flag events, a lot of fear before the Olympics was just rampant throughout the world. And as I mentioned in my opening ceremonies review of my last video, which you can look at if you haven't seen this one, I mentioned that there most likely wouldn't be a false flag. There wasn't a false flag at the event. However, there were a number of events that surrounding the Olympics that were quite interesting, so we'll touch on that here. Now, the Olympics comes after the Venus transit. The Venus transit and the Diamond Jubilee, which was in coordination with the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth. Okay, so the Queen is going to be a part of this presentation here. One of the things that came up that was really clear for me, again, I've mentioned the Phoenix in a number of my videos, but here we saw at the closing ceremonies the Phoenix rising. What we see is patterns repeated over and over and over again. When you know what to look for, you can actually see the repetition patterns. The psychopaths that run this world, the power control force, they are very much engaged with patterns. It's very, very important. Patterns and dates and occultations are really key for these people. So the Phoenix, from my perspective, is really talking about the rising and setting of the sun. Okay, the rising and setting of the sun, but it also has a significance with the Phoenix constellation as well. Okay, very prominent in the closing ceremonies was this content, this whole area of content, the content of newsprint being from classic literature instead of London's famous tabloids. The statement actually being made here is that there's a dramatic and cryptic fashion that who runs the world, that the world is programmed through the media. And so this was proliferated throughout the London Olympics, right in your face. This is the closing ceremonies. That's what the meaning had for me in this particular part. One significant thing that I want to bring up too was Mars. Now, in relation to Mars, what we had, if we look at the opening ceremonies, was the Queen falling out of the sky. This is a new movie that's coming up called Skyfall. Not only did the Queen come out of the fall out of the sky, but so she did with James Bond. This movie comes out November. And it's very interesting. In this movie, he is a Manchurian candidate. And so they're also talking about predictive programming in this new movie that's coming out. When we look about Mars in relation to the Queen and Skyfall, this new movie that's coming out, them falling from the sky, remarkable resemblance to the Mars rover Curiosity coming down from the sky during the Olympics on August the 5th, which was the same birthday, or was the same day as Barack Obama's birthday. Again, all by design. These are well scripted, well choreographed events that are spoon fed. So remember, your reality is being spoon fed to you, okay, by the power control force. Those that run this world are presumed to run this world. Now, interesting enough, surrounding the Olympics, 10 days after 10 days after they were shooting, and after Barack Obama was in Colorado giving his condolences to the victims of the Dark Night massacre, he here is on the phone talking to the Turkish Prime Minister about Syria with a bat sitting in the Oval Office. If you look at the picture behind him, above his head, you'll see it is a torch. This is, again, all by design. That's the Statue of Liberty torch behind him. All by design. Nothing in this picture here is by accident. So what we're seeing here is this was a remarkable resemblance of what he's depicting here during the Olympics, again, all surrounding the Olympics, is the Beijing torch. This is a torch, or what he's holding in his hand here is a Louisville slugger. Okay, a Louisville slugger, a baseball bat. If you turn the baseball bat around, it looks like a torch to me. This is the Beijing torch. The Beijing Olympics was in 2004 at the solar minimum. So what this is symbolizing to me is that he is carrying the torch. He is the dark knight that rises in the United States. He is a dark knight. He's a black man. He's dark. He's a dark knight that's rising. He's holding the torch. He's holding the reins of the United States and the world, pretty much. He's the puppet or the slave, or his puppet master, or his slave master is the power control force. And this is symbolizing, I believe, the solar maximum that's going to be happening, that's been revised from 2012 to 2013. Why would I believe this? Because it's going to be solar activity that evolves human consciousness. This is all about denying humanity the right to ascend. Ascend meaning the right to evolve to the next level of consciousness, to wake up to the situation in which we find ourselves in, to wake up to our gifts and talents, to know the truth of who we are and live in this physical world knowing that truth and building a utopia. Because when we look at the 2012 closing ceremonies, if you look at the picture here on the bottom, I'm going to talk about this Batman and Robin. But again, this is Batman and Robin rising again. This is a rising of Batman and Robin. And Batman and Robin were highlighted at the Olympic ceremonies. And people were wondering why these guys were there. Well, they come from Britain's past. They were part of the English culture before, before they were in major movies. So they're showing up in a yellow car that definitely was from the hero's humble beginnings. Well, the yellow car is symbolic of the sun and the transformation that the sun is going to unleash onto this earth plane in order to evolve it to the next level of consciousness. I know this stuff might be way out there for some people, but this is what we're talking about. What the power control force is doing is they're telling you that with Mars, that they rule the psyche. They rule the psyche. And Aries is the sign that rules Mars. And so Aries was an Olympian god of war, of civil order and manly courage. In Greek art, it was depicted as either a mature bearded warrior dressed in battle arms or a nude beardless youth with a helm and spear. Aries, on the other hand, is nothing but the personification of bold force, strength, and not so much the god of war. It is confusion and horror. Yes, the power control force is creating confusion, horror, and chaos and mayhem in this world, and they are building a totalitarian regime in order to control humanity, because they are losing their control. Because when more people wake up to the truth of what's going on, when more people wake up to the truth of the situation in which we find ourselves in, they are not going to put up with this. And so this is really key. What they're telling you at the 2012 closing ceremony is, we rule your psyche. And so you're going to be hearing a lot about Mars, because Mars is symbolically, or is connected to the psyche. And so you're going to be hearing a lot about this Mars rover and the curiosity. And there's no reason, or there is a reason why it's called curiosity, because they don't want you to wake up. They just want you to be curious. So they're going to be putting a lot of stuff in your face around Mars. But Mars, they're really telling you, is that we rule your psyche. And with the queen falling out of the sky, very similar to the rover falling out of the sky, the Mars rover falling out of the sky, what they're basically telling you is that we rule your psyche. We are the bloodline that rules your psyche. And here's the leader. Here's a woman that's leading this, one of the people that's leading this, and the whole cabal. So if you think it's just Illuminati, that's just a fraction or a faction of those that run this world. It's a higher order. There's a lot more other organizations that are above the Illuminati. So you're just giving bits and pieces of information of truths. You're not given all the truths. You have to seek that for yourself. And so what I also wanted to mention to you was, in the Batman and Robin photo on the floor there, you can see the word Clockwork Orange. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, Clockwork Orange. The Clockwork Orange is a 1962 dystopian novel. Dystopian meaning usually extrapolates elements of contemporary society and are read by many as political warnings. Well, they're telling you what they're doing through all their media. You're getting lots of information in terms of the stages or the phases that we're moving into as a planetary system, from the perspective of what they're trying to do. But as above, so below. What we don't know, what we're not hearing, is what's happening in our solar system, in our universe. There's an evolutionary process that's undertaking, that's unveiling itself to allow the human species to evolve to the next level of consciousness. And the power control force, those that are presumed to run the world, are trying to suppress that information. So I'm going to pause here just for a moment and let you know that I do have a blog, and there's a link to the blog in the description. What I encourage you to do is to subscribe to that blog, or check back on that blog fairly regularly, because I am posting there more often. I've been posting stuff on Dark Knight Rises, and I've been posting other things. But I can actually explain a lot more in written form than I can here in this format, because there's just so much information. And again, it is just a perspective. It's just another perspective. But again, there is a higher order of what's happening here. And what the power control force is basically putting in your face is that we don't care that there's a higher order. We are playing God, and we are going to control what it is that you know, and what it is that how you evolve or de-evolve. Because most of humanity is not evolving. And at this particular time, they can't, because they're so locked into their five sense personality aspect of them. They're this reality box that is given to them, spoon-fed to them. It's just incredible. So the other thing I wanted to mention to you before I close out here was this car blowing up when Batman and Robin were getting out. It's orange, it's yellow, or it's yellow. It reminded me of this picture I saw that was put in a shocking image of Amy Winehouse burying William and Kate in a shallow grave was used to promote a Chilean newspaper. And I thought, if you look at the car in the back, look very similar to the car in the photo at the closing ceremonies, which is in the United Kingdom. The closing ceremonies is very full of lots of symbolism and allegory and tales and fables of potentially what can happen. It talked about the past, talked about the future, and which was seen in the present moment by millions and millions and millions of people. So this is just suggestion, but that rang out to me quite clearly. Again, seeing the patterns and connecting the dots. So again, this is just a perspective, but we also saw The Tempest. The Tempest, where Winston Churchill comes out of a box and an actor who plays Winston Churchill coming out of the box and reading a portion of The Tempest from John Milton's poems in Genesis. Now, I keep talking about Paradise Lost, and that's what this is. This is about the knowledge, the forgotten knowledge that Eve ate from the tree, the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. And they're right in your face, again, telling you that your paradise or your potential utopia they're creating in this dystopia, like which was talked about in Clockwork Orange. But dystopia is an offshoot of utopia, and it's a genre of literature. When we talk about utopia, you are to create utopia. Who and what you are as pure consciousness. Now, this may be out there for some of you. Comes from your original state of being is utopia, and yet you're living in dystopia, or a dystopia is being created. And so this is a power control force creating a world that's going to be horrific. And unless humanity wakes up to this, we are not going to be able to change the course of the events or the course of the world in which we live in. So I'm going to leave you with that. But again, you can join me on Facebook, subscribe to this channel, or you can click on the link in the description and get some more information on the posts that I provide, similar to what I'm sharing here in these videos, but probably more in depth because I can only share so much here. I want to thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate all your comments. And again, this is just a sharing and a perspective, but we rule our psyche. The power control force doesn't rule our psyche, and it's time for people to wake up and reclaim their power back and reclaim their minds back and reclaim their right to rule their mind. And the power control force does not have that right. It is your right to rule your mind, not theirs. So don't let them manipulate you and keep you under hypnosis, because most of humanity is on a hypnotic trance state. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.